As hard as it may be for a lot of us to accept, WWE is not a pro wrestling company, it's an entertainment company. It may have been a wrestling company at one point in time, but it certainly isn't defined by that specific characteristic anymore. Unfortunately for anyone who considers themselves a hardcore fan, an understanding of in-ring psychology and top-notch work isn't all that is needed to succeed in Vince McMahon's behemoth. Time and time again, we have seen wrestlers with little to no talent between the ropes be pushed to the moon simply because of their look. While the dark days of the Divas division are behind us, it's still extremely difficult to forget about the blatant objectifications that took place in segments like ECW's Extreme Exposé, or the sheer number of bra and panty matches we were exposed to in the late 90s and early 2000s. Sometimes it becomes difficult to figure out whether the company values a professional wrestler's looks over their in-ring acumen. It's for this reason that Daniel Bryan faced so much resistance on the way to the top, and guys like Cesaro, who are fantastic in the ring, are stuck in mid-card purgatory, floating around aimlessly without so much as a whiff of the main event scene. They had the in-ring talent, but didn't have the look. So let's check out 10 wrestlers WWE signed because of their looks. There's no denying that Batista had a Hall of Fame worthy career. Even if he isn't the most well-liked guy backstage and was notorious for his womanizing ways, the animal left his mark on the company in his short stay with WWE. He was handpicked for success by backstage officials, as he was immediately aligned with Triple H and Ric Flair as a part of Evolution, alongside fellow rookie Randy Orton. Batista's look and sheer physicality got him over with the universe, but despite working so closely with the Nature Boy and the Cerebral Assassin for an extended period of time, their mentorship did not result in the animal being a great in-ring worker. The two biggest moves in the animal's arsenal were the Batista Bomb and a cool-looking spinebuster. But that was about it. His character work was always decent, as were his mic skills, but his ability in the ring varied depending on who he was facing off against. None of that stopped Batista from being a massive success, as he was able to win 6 world titles, 2 Royal Rumbles, and 4 tag team championships. But if you're under the impression that his in-ring work got him to the top of the mountain, you would be wrong. Very wrong. It's so easy to criticize Eva Marie, but it's hard to deny that she is one of the worst wrestlers to have ever wrestled in a WWE ring. Despite having one-on-one sessions with the Brian Kendrick and being given more than enough time by the company to hone her skills, the red-haired superstar was a way below average worker at best. In a company blessed with talent like Charlotte, Sasha Banks, and Becky Lynch, Marie's ineptitude stuck out even more. It was blatantly obvious that the company had signed Marie for her looks. WWE has a history with hiring models and turning them into pro wrestlers, and on paper, Marie fit the mold perfectly. You can't really place all the blame on Marie for her failure, as WWE pushed her to the main roster with only 2 weeks of formal training. She was an immensely marketable superstar in the eyes of the company and found herself in a nice spot on Total Divas as well, but nothing could take away from the fact that Marie couldn't wrestle to save her life. A stint in NXT away from the bright lights of the main roster did little to improve her ability in the ring, so it really came as no surprise to anyone when she announced that she had parted ways with the company in August of last year. It's safe to say that Marie probably isn't missed in the slightest, and the women's revolution has thrived in her absence. Marie's hiring reflected a mentality of a bygone era, but everything is back on track now. The Great Khali is a giant. The wrestler of Indian origin is 7 feet tall and is the definition of intimidating. Unfortunately, his massive size would push him to the main event despite the fact he couldn't wrestle at all. He had an uninspired moveset and was painfully slow in the ring, making all of his matches a bore to watch. Despite his abject failure as a wrestler, he was regularly inserted into the main event spot, headlining shows, and even capturing the world title on one occasion. Giving him a manager and positioning him as a monster heel did nothing to distract us from the fact that other than being 7 feet tall, the Great Khali had literally nothing to offer WWE. It may seem like it was ages ago, but the former SmackDown Live Women's Champion Naomi first showed up on our televisions as one of the dancers in Brodus Clay's act. Alongside her was Cameron, who also had a short stint as a wrestler, but instead of immediately proving herself to be a sure hand in the ring like Naomi, the former Funkadactyl moved down to NXT to hone her craft. Unfortunately, that did little to help her, as she regularly botched moves, did not understand in-ring psychology, and had no flow to her matches. So it wasn't too surprising when she was released by the company in 2016. Cameron had a good look, but it wasn't nearly enough to salvage her career. If you're claim to fame as being a good dancer in a pro wrestling company, you're in trouble. Summer Rae rose to prominence in WWE as Fandango's dance partner, making the universe swoon over her with her dance moves. But all good things must come to an end, so it wasn't long before Summer Rae and Fandango went their separate ways and she was inserted into the women's division as a wrestler. No one is going to mention Rae's name in a conversation about decent or even subpar wrestlers in recent years, as her performances in the ring were disappointing, to say the least. Despite being a natural athlete, Rae never became a good in-ring worker, and when you couple that with a number of injuries, you find your career at a dead end. Even though she got a spot on Total Divas and briefly replaced Lana as Rusev's valet, it did very little to help out her career, leading to her being released from her contract at the end of October last year. Goldberg had a great run with the company recently, capturing the Universal title and almost erasing our memories of his WrestleMania 20 performance. There was a commonality in all of his matches, they were never very long. Goldberg was booked perfectly during his initial run with WCW, as the jackhammer and spear were the only two moves. He only needed to use these to win the match. Ask yourself if anyone can name any other move in Goldberg's arsenal other than the jackhammer and the spear. No? Well, that's because he didn't have any other moves. He was severely limited in the ring, but WCW as well as WWE pulled out all of the stops to cover up his deficiencies. His intense look and monstrous build were all he needed to be a massive success. It was difficult to figure out just what Rosa Mendes offered the WWE during her time with the company. Terrible in the ring and below average on the mic, a lot of people would argue that Mendes had a relatively successful tenure with WWE solely because of her aesthetic appeal. She was a part of the main cast on Total Divas, but didn't offer much else. The highlight of her career was arguably managing Primo and Epica when they were the tag team champions, but admittedly, that isn't saying much either. Mendes is one of the few female wrestlers who wasn't released by the company. Rather, she chose to retire from in-ring competition in February of last year, exactly 1 year after giving birth to a child. Since then, she's made her presence felt on the indie circuit, but she isn't missed by WWE in the slightest. Dana Brooke has repeatedly failed to impress ever since she moved to the main roster, and a number of random heel as well as face turns are doing little to help her cause. Charlotte's former sidekick and the former analyst for Titus Worldwide is one of the greenest stars on the main roster and has done nothing to show that she is deserving of a spot that isn't on the undercard. Perhaps more damning is the fact that Brooke doesn't even seem to have a clear personality or gimmick that the universe could sink their teeth into. It's honestly quite a surprise that she hasn't been sent to NXT to figure things out before eventually trying her luck on the main roster once again. Queen of Staten Island had a run at the top of SmackDown Live's women's division and proved why she doesn't belong there. Uninspired mic work coupled with subpar matches caused her reign to be a dud, and despite WWE sacrificing Asuka to get her over, she was unable to establish herself as anything more than a placeholder champion. Carmella did not get called up to the main roster at the same time as her running mate in NXT Enzo Amore and Big Cass simply because she wasn't good enough. Someone could probably make a strong case that she wasn't even ready when she was eventually called up. Carmella has fallen way down the card, now resorting to random dance breaks alongside R-Truth, offering nothing more than silly comic relief. Kelly couldn't wrestle, and she further proved that point when she came back to the squared circle during the Women's Royal Rumble match earlier this year. Sloppy and uncoordinated in the ring, she found success often being a star of the Extreme Exposed segments on the repackaged ECW, bad on the mic, and in the ring Kelly stayed relevant for as long as she did because of her looks and not much else. And these are 10 wrestlers WWE signed because of their looks. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching Wrestling Hub, and I'll see you later with more videos.